Yep,
I
but
like
I'll
it.
tell you by the end of it, things will be looking up. We're talking about sexual health. We're talking about male impotence. And men in their 70s should not have the same sexual function as a man in his 20s and 30s.
When I'm working with 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds, and it's telling us that their body age is 72, 73,
80,
78.
we've seen 80s.
Like,
Yep.
it's no wonder our bodies can't
Yep.
perform and can't do the things that we want to do. And we always feel that we can't ever get ahead.
From a male's perspective, if you are estrogen dominant, you will be testosterone deprived. Therefore, your sexual function will go down. Your sexual performance will go down. And trust me, in your 20s, when things working perfect all the time, you're not concerned about it. But as soon as it hits you in your late 20s and early 30s, and you're in that whole I need to start a family phase, it's an empathy thing. There is a plan. There is a process. This can be changed. This can be helped. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Skip Wyss. I am here as always with my fabulous, amazing co-host, Dr. Julie Wyss. How are you today?
I'm great.
I love your t-shirt.
Thank you.
What you
Yours
got on
too.
there? Yeah, we're matching
I'm
today.
working on our nonprofit, the Spine Project.
The Spine Project, 501c3 veterans charity. Absolutely fantastic charity, by the way. We've been doing that for years. Done over $1 million in chiropractic services for military vets. That's something awesome. So if you want any information on that, you can always hit us up about the Spine Project. Big golf outing coming up here in July. But today we are talking about something that might be a little taboo.
Ooh,
Yep, but I'll tell you by the end of it, things will be looking up. We're talking all things erections today, and we're talking about sexual health. We're talking about male impotence, and we're talking about problems with maintaining and achieving sexual function in men.
Ooh, now would be a good time for my joke.
What's joke like? Well, we got to stay serious on this, so because it's a serious issue, and it can be funny, it can be faux pas. I mean, but it's a serious issue. It's affecting hundreds of thousands of men a year, and it is getting younger and younger and younger in our population. Our population is getting affected by it at a much younger age, and absolutely awestruck at the advertisements that are out there now. The advertisements that are talking to young 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds on how millennials are having sex these days, and it's or lack of, and it's just straight Viagra,
it's the little
pills.
blue pill that used to be for 50, 60, 70-year-olds. That's now to 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds.
25, 30-year-olds. And it's not okay. It's not okay. You know, we go back. I know every one of you out there has seen this commercial on Instagram where it says how millennials are having sex. And it's a girl in a push-up bra, and she's on a ring cam. And it's a straight-up hookup. But she's fixing herself up on the ring cam, ready to knock on the door. And then she knocks on the door. The guy on the other side is putting a chewable in his mouth to help him have intercourse with this lady that's coming into his life, or however you want to put this. But bottom line is that these people are very young, and this should not be happening. This should not be happening in your 30s. It should not be happening in your 40s. I've seen young men as young as 19 with erectile problems, and it's not okay. It's not okay. The thing that makes it okay to the public is that we've been inundated with it since the early 90s, since Viagra hit the market.
It's becoming so common, right?
Yeah.
So just like female problems, just like anything in the world, if we talk about it, we can normalize it, and then we can all sympathize and say, oh, I have that too. It must be okay. It's normal. And just again, like we say, just because it's common does not mean that it's normal. You are abnormal. That's not how our bodies are made and designed to react.
Well, impotence in male issues has been around for decades. It's just that in the 90s, a certain pharmaceutical company out there developed a blue pill, and it was developed for blood pressure. It was a blood pressure medication. And they realized the side effect of the blood pressure medication was things were standing up more often than normal. And the reason why was it was causing more blood flowing to the genital area of men, causing an erection. And so obviously all of a sudden now it's not that effective on lowering blood pressure. In fact, it increased blood pressure. Therefore, the side effect of it was possible cure for male impotence. And male impotence at that time was affecting 60 and 70-year-olds, which is normal to see as testosterone drops because of the normal process of aging. But one of the biggest things then is that, so they develop this medication. They get Bob Dole to start talking about it during an election season. election. So during the election season, and then now all of a sudden it's becoming the norm. And it's no different than Starbucks getting us used to paying $6 for a cup of coffee when it should cost $2.50. So it's just changing the norm. It's been decades and decades and decades of just constant barragement from all of these different medications, and then you've got people sitting on top of a mountain, laying in bathtubs, holding hands for another erectile dysfunction one too. Well, it's a connection thing, and there's more innuendos to it than what you can possibly imagine. But bottom line is that now it's become normal, and normal has become now a commonality in men, and it absolutely breaks my heart that young men are now being inundated with, number one, sexual identity, which is a total different, gender dysmorphia is a total different conversation. But the fact that now all of a sudden this has become okay to have erectile issues when you're very young, just like having bladder issues in women when they're young. And it's just okay. And we can mask it with a pill. We can mask it with different medications. And I can tell you right now that it is not okay. It's not normal. And that what we do in our industry actually helps a tremendous amount. Because the nervous system, this is a neurological issue. This is not some issue where you're just getting older or it's just common knowledge or anything like that. Like, this is a neurological issue. And in fact, the entire reproductive system is run off of both sides of our neurology: rest and digest and fight or flee. Yep, it's sympathetics and parasympathetics. So we know this from working with children nonstop, that this is something that is affected early on in life. And that's why young kids, younger males are coming in with this at an earlier age. But the other side of it is, and we're going to go into this cascade, is what is actually causing these issues. And we know in chiropractic, a lot of it comes back to subluxation. Misalignment of the pelvis, misalignment of the upper neck, causing interference between the brain and the body, and the body and the brain, then causing end organ problems, which can ultimately lead to erectile dysfunction in males. But also, the even more underlying culprit here is stress on the nervous system, which is causing an increase in cortisol in the body. Cortisol is a neurotransmitter that your body releases when it's stressed. It's survival. But the issue with chronic cortisol in the body is that it starts shutting down things like sex hormones, testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, starts messing with the thyroid, starts messing with blood sugars, starts doing a lot of things, when it all comes back to our previous few episodes of sleep and recovery, right? So I remember when we were first dating, I was on antidepressants, and antidepressants were definitely an affecting cause. And I suffered from, I will tell you right now, in my early 20s, I suffered from erectile issues. And it was because of the medications I was on. And this is one of the number one things we see in young males, is they're on antidepressants. They're on mood stabilizing drugs. And these mood stabilizing drugs, one of the number one side effects is erectile dysfunction, is a change in libido, is a change in just overall feeling of who they are as individuals. And that's not okay. What is your thought on this, Dr. Julie? I mean, you're a female. You're coming at it from a different perspective of understanding what men deal with versus women. And I can see that this can be probably pretty hard on women if the men in their life aren't being able to maintain or achieve an erection. Do you think women would take that personally?
Well, I think it's like lots of times in healthcare, right? We have our patient intake forms, and let's just pick on the male population. Lots of times they'll come in and say, well, I have low back pain.
Yep.
And that's all that's circled on their paperwork, even though it has erectile dysfunction, it has bladder issues, constipation, it has all these other symptoms that are on there and labeled, because we know so much of the population suffers from this. But that's usually all that's written on there.
Yeah.
And then after that person's been under care for so long, sometimes they will end up saying something.
They always do.
Or the wife then comes in with a smile on her face of like, you would not believe what has changed. Or now, like when somebody suffered, with infertility, and it's usually always placed blame on the lady, and now they're pregnant, and so it's the neurology. But unless people start to talk about this, it's just going to continue on. And then we talk about family sizes changing, right? Like this is natural population control.
Well, natural and unnatural, and seeing these changes in people hormonally, because we're seeing hormones change in our food. We're seeing a diet that's laden with dairy, a diet that's laden with carbohydrates, a lifestyle that's laden with sedativity or sedativeness, I guess, whatever word you want to call it. Sedentary diet, sedentary lifestyles. This is all leading to erectile dysfunction and lack of sex hormones.
More estrogen dominant
on both
population.
Sides. Yeah.
So our men are turning into women, and our women, I mean, some of them are changing to more masculine tendencies.
They
so
are.
Our hormones, everything in our environment are, they affect us. And if we don't have things in place to properly, stop that, or, if we can't change the environment, other things to come in and support that, this is the cascade that's going to happen.
So those hormonal changes are really a big deal. And this is one of the things that as we go through life and age, one of the most common forms of erectile dysfunction treatments early on was testosterone for men. And it was effective. But how can we raise our natural testosterone stores? That's a big thing. You need to stay active in life. You need to be exercising. You need to be on your feet. You need to be moving around. Your body needs movement. And it also needs fat. This is something that people shy away from a lot. No, I'm not telling you to go out there and eat a bunch of pork belly and get as much fat in your diet as possible. But you do need butters. You do need good saturated and unsaturated fats to produce the right amount of sex hormones. Your body then can handle those really well if you're working out, if you're walking 2 to 3 miles a day, if you have a good if you have a good brisk walk, even a run, HIIT workouts, so weight training, strength training, all of that makes you produce more testosterone, actually makes you produce the right amount of estrogen and progesterone in your body as well.
But hey, it's everything in moderation, right? Like we just need to talk about like a good balanced diet and physical activity, right? Everybody can throw all of the excuses that they want, but ultimately, like if this is what's happening, here are the things that you need to do.
Yeah, and we come back to, and I'm going to get into this in a little bit about treatments, because everybody can throw supplements at this as well.
The quick fix.
But the quick fix, but it's still, what are we doing long term to restore normal sexual function in men? And no, men in their 70s should not have the same sexual function as a man in his 20s and 30s because he is past child procreation years. It's the same thing we see in women as well. You're going to see those hormonal drives change, and they should naturally, but we still should be able to maintain or achieve these issues.
It makes total sense when I do my biometric scale weigh-ins with my clients. And when we talk about like it can give an actual age. And when I'm working with 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds, and it's telling us that their body age is 72, 73, 80, 78.
We've seen 80s.
Like, it's no wonder our bodies can't perform and can't do the things that we want to do. And we always feel that we can't ever get ahead.
Well, let's dive into that, because that's an actual diet. That's an actual body change thing. And it has a lot to do with our fat in our body, both visceral fat, which is what surrounds our organs, and fat that's adipose tissue that sits underneath between the skin and the muscle. There's two types. And those superficial surface fats versus those organ fats, both not good, not okay for your body. But what's the old adage? 25 pounds of being overweight in a male leads to what? Estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance. And if I'm telling you, and from a male's perspective, if you are estrogen dominant, you will be testosterone deprived. Therefore, your sexual function will go down. Your sexual performance will go down. Your stamina, your vitality, whatever the hell you want to call it or put some word on it, will decrease. And what I found personally, and this is a personal testimony here, as I lost weight, as I started to get into the low 200s to sub 200s for my body height and actually started getting back in shape, my sexual stamina went up, my sex drive went up, my vitality went up, all because I started to exercise and lost weight and got the fat out of my body. That's the key. The fat needs to leave. Fat tissue is an endocrine gland. It secretes estrogen. It doesn't really secrete progesterone that much. So what happens then in women as well, they become estrogen dominant. And you tie that and couple that with increased cortisol, leads to adrenal fatigue, and then your sexual function as a female plummets as well. And right. So does your fertility.
Depressed and stressed, and every time like we can eat, we don't eat. Everything just adds to the hips, right? And
then you're not even comfortable. Then you're not even comfortable being naked. You know what I mean? Like if you have a massive problem from a male or female perspective, because men deal with this too. I deal with it. If you don't like the way you look when you're nude, you will not like the way you feel when you're with your partner naked. You will start having these things in the back of your mind saying, is he noticing these things on me? Does she notice these things on me? You know, and that changes things too. So you need to get some self-love, and that's really hard. That's one of the hardest things out there, is to work on yourself and understand you are who you are. You start loving yourself and having confidence in yourself, and that really does make a difference as well. So when we come back to this list, because what causes this thing, that's actually one of the number one search things out there. The cause, and is it reversible?
Absolutely.
What causes it? Well, we know that it's a nervous system issue, that lack of communication, the nervous system isn't going to work properly, okay? The other thing is hormones. We just touched on that with fat and with being overweight. Stress, we hit on that with cortisol being super, super high. Drugs, and we'll get into this in just a second, and then blood pressure medication. Now, this is something that I want to talk about because blood pressure medication is a culprit in a lot of this, even though it's kind of funny that a blood pressure medication causes erections. Most of them take erections away because they decrease blood pressure. And the biggest kicker is that we need blood pressure to create pressure in a certain organ so it swells up and does its job, right? You got to pressurize the system. If we don't have pressure in the system ain't going to work correctly. And I remember this really conversation years ago with my dad. He wanted to go. He said, hey, we got to go for a beer tonight. And my dad, in my entire lifetime, asked me to go for a beer twice. And I knew both times that there was something going on. And he said to me, I remember him, we went to the microbrewery in town, and he said, hey, Skip, what do you know about erectile dysfunction? And I said, well, let's have a conversation about it. And I said, what's going on? And he's like, Skip, have you ever laid a rope on a table and tried to push it in one direction? And I was like, oh my God, Dad. And I started dying, and I started laughing, and I said, yeah. And I said, what's going on? He's like, well, I've been pushing a rope here for a couple months, and I'm getting really worried. And a lot of it came back to this oversupply of blood pressure medication my dad was on, plus hormones changing, got my dad more active, changed blood pressure medications, talked to his MD, and all of a sudden that rope wasn't really a rope anymore, which was good for my dad. But medications can be a major issue. So when we look at this mental health in men and women, we can come back to my story. I was severely depressed because of an emotional problem I had in my life. And I had you in my life at that time, but I was still dealing with a lot of problems. And I was on an SSRI, which is what's only available now. And I can't go into the name of the drug because of the show, but it's very common, antidepressant. And over 6 months, it had caused things to not work correctly. And that was a major problem for me. I remember that one day I was just like, this is not okay. And you told me it wasn't either. You said you need to figure this out. So I did. And it was from chronic antidepressant use. And what I mean by that, it was only 6 months. 6 months of use. And I thought I had an actual real problem. And what it was chemical related. And it was changing the way my body was working. But even more importantly, it was changing the way my mind was working. I wasn't feeling sensation. I wasn't feeling love. I wasn't feeling anger. I wasn't feeling anything. And that completely changed my life when my chiropractor came to me and said, his name was Dr. John Stowe, as a matter of fact. He's one of my mentors. And John said, hey, Skip, I think this is from the antidepressants you're on. We got to look at talking to your MD and getting you off of this stuff. And I couldn't just quit it cold turkey. Remember that? We had to step down because I tried to quit it cold turkey and got really sick. for like a week. It was bad. It was bad. So understanding how those drugs can, one, alter the mind, but number two, alter the way the body works physiologically is super concerning to have that happen, to literally change the way our God-given right and feeling to procreate to completely go away.
Our bodies are made like it's neurology, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can call it whatever we want, circuit breakers, just the electricity going through our body.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had power out here at the office, you know, throughout the Midwest, power was out. So that's ultimately what happens within our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And all we need is the electrician to be able to flip that switch and turn those things back on.
Well, let me ask you a quick question about that power out. We had 90% power gone to the office. And you single-handedly, with the help of our team, got the power working somewhat. And you limped the office along, not for lack of a pun. Yeah. You limped the office along. But is that sustainable for a long period of time?
Absolutely not.
Did it work for 2 days?
It kept your beautiful fish alive.
Yep.
For it was 3 days. It was 3 long days.
3 long days.
But no, it's not a way to live, right? Because everybody else is then on high alert. So if we translate that to our body is in a state of cortisol, stressed, high alert. Everything else is going to suffer because all of the energy that you have is going into supporting, for us, it was those 3 outlets. So then everything else gets jeopardized.
Yeah.
And so many of us go through life that way. And at a certain point, our body finally just says, you know what? I don't care anymore.
I ain't going to work today.
Stuff starts to, give out. And that's unfortunately when some people really realize that, oh, I should have done something, when it's like gotten to the end of the road.
Yeah. And in most men, it's super chronic bad pain, erectile dysfunction, or change their bowel movements.
They don't come in until it's broken or fallen off.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before in the past, but most men that come in with low back issues almost always have erectile dysfunction. A lot of them are chronic smokers, which is a total different conversation. And they have major neck subluxation in their neck, which is
maybe we need a code word. I don't know if it's like low back pain, like we have a code word for some women, right? When we have really bad PMS cramps and somebody, they're just too embarrassed to say that. And it's usually like, hey, it's that time. If we need to have it for you guys, fine, whatever it is. If we need to call it low back pain for you to get that stuff fixed so you can, procreate and be with your family, so be it. But we just need to talk about it.
Maybe the code words are pushing a rope.
There we go. Pushing a rope. Guys, that's your code word. Pushing a rope. If that's on the forms, no more questions asked. We got you. We can help you.
Yeah, he floored me that day. And if you come back to the treatments of this stuff, the treatments are archaic. They really are. Because they don't actually fix the root of the problem. Yeah. I mean, we're to the point now where we're sending electrical impulses into men's shafts. Sorry, I can use that word. So I'm going to use that word.
Tell you, think about like walking up to an outlet and...
well, kind of, but what are we... Kind of, yes, but there's these different devices out there, and they have protocols for it. But I actually kind of think about the clinician who's got to sit there, and then the other side of it is the patient that's got to sit there and take it.
Let me tell you, write it on the paperwork.
And people are spending millions of dollars a year on those treatments alone, and they do not cause long-term help. You still got to go back to the well. You still got to get shocked. They do penile implants. There's pumps. There's potions, there's lotions, and then there's pills. And there's chewable pills now too, because apparently we've forgotten how to swallow. So these are major issues going on that there is really no long-term helpful effect except for exercise, nutrition and diet, proper recovery, sleep, and chiropractic care. And I will be an advocate for that because as soon as I started changing all of that aspect of my life early on in my 20s, and I had you in my life, it all changed. And it all got better because of what I got back on track. And there's a lot of men and women out there. There is no easy way out of this. You can go to a compounding pharmacy. You can get a lotion made with testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone in it, but you have to have your MD sign off on that. But again, that is a short-term solution to a long-term problem caused by the neurology not working correctly. And it comes back to the body's ability to recover and work properly. And if your body can't recover, like you just heard from the last 3 podcasts we did on sleep, and if you need more information, get into our sleep challenge so we can help you get that to recover. Your body will live in a chronic state of stress and disease. It will do it. So chiropractic is always a very good help to this. And the last thing I want to talk about is men will search this too. After they've looked up everything, they want to know if there's a cure. They actually are searching, is there a cure? Yesterday alone, there was 1.7 thousand asks just on Google on is there a cure to erectile dysfunction.
It makes me sad.
It does. It makes me hurt for these guys. And it's not a sympathy thing, it's an empathy thing, boys and gentlemen out there. It's an empathy thing. There is a plan, there is a process. This can be changed. This can be helped. And restoring natural function to the body, restoring natural motion to the body, and getting exercise in, getting you down in proper weight and nutrition. And I'm still overweight. I'm still 20 pounds too heavy for what I should be. And my body age is down though. I'm 41 and my body age is 36. So it's doing what we're supposed to be doing here. But it's getting all of that back into consideration. And then restoring blood flow. We know that if you work out, if you run, if you increase muscle mass, what has to happen to your heart? It has to increase in function, which is good for it. It's designed to beat. It has to mildly increase blood pressure to do what? Heal muscle and allow you to recover. If I increase blood pressure, what maybe works better?
All of your organs.
All of the plumbing. Yes, all of the plumbing. So it's very important, men out there, that we need to change our sedative levels. We need to change how sedative as in what we're taking, and sitting around on the couch all day and being sedentary. Both shut you off. None of them turn you on and make you work. And it's a huge deal. And it's both sides of the street. Women out there listening with your men, I would say have empathy for them, but also help them in aiding them and asking them, go work out, do stuff together, work out together, do things together, move together. Because moving together now outside leads to moving together inside. Do you have any advice for women, Dr. Julie?
No, I would say, yeah, get moving. This isn't a one-sided thing, because we can place the blame on both sides, but the same thing's going to happen to the women as well.
I'm super passionate about this issue, guys. I am, because it's concerning. And the reason why it concerns me so much is that I have a 13-year-old son and I have a 16-year-old daughter. And I do not want our children dealing with the things that we deal with now that are preventable, that we can get ahead of, that we can help. And trust me, in your 20s, when things working perfect all the time, you're not concerned about it. But as soon as it hits you in your late 20s and early 30s, and you're in that whole I need to start a family phase, and you can't even get things started to start a family, that's when we really have to look at things seriously, and we should have looked at it 10 years ago. But I love you guys, and reach out to us. Reach out to me and Dr. Julie. We're coming at you from, what is this place? It's Legacy Life Studio.
Yeah, we're in the Legacy Life Media Studio.
It's about creating legacy. It's about creating a lifestyle that everybody deserves. And every one of you out there deserve to be healthy. You just need to take the small steps forward, and we can help you with this here. So go out there, get it done, everybody. Take care. Bye, everyone.